Good morning. All right, let's take care of a couple of announcements here. First of all, the flowers are placed in loving memory of Mr. Lee. He didn't like flowers, and the only thing he did even mention that he liked was Johnny Jump Ups, the little tiny things that are hard to arrange in anything. So, with not having the viewing and that kind of stuff, we told Miss Shirley that the church would get some type of arrangement and put it at the front of the church in honor of Mr. Lee. And when I went in and talked to him about, I want something green, they suggested a strawberry plant, especially when they heard he was a farmer. So here we have a strawberry plant that she can take home, and actually has a ripe strawberry or two in there, and can enjoy for a while. They're placed in loving memory of Mr. Lee Barrett, one of our faithful members for a lot of years, and passed away last Sunday morning. So, all right, and then let's see. Where do we put the bookmarks? On the back table? Okay. James sent us from his church special bookmarks. He had an idea. He has written to us and said that he has sent bookmarks for each of you to take. And those bookmarks include a time written on them. I choose to pray for community church at such and such time, okay? So when you go to get one, don't just grab any old one. Look at them, okay? So if Hank's going to be in school at 10 o'clock in the morning, he probably doesn't want to take a 10 o'clock in the morning prayer time. He maybe should take a 5 o'clock in the morning.
That's his free period.
The actual time is this Saturday when he wants the prayer? I want him to pray all the time for him.
Well, that's fine, but isn't it the 26th?
May 26th is when the main thing is, yes. But I want him to pray all the time. No, I know what you're saying. What's on the thing is to pray for Saturday. What he's saying is he just wants you to pray for Saturday at that time. But I think it's good for us to actually say, I want to take this and I want to make it a goal to pray every day at this time for James's church. Okay, that's what I think we ought to extend it into. So anyways, they're asking us to pray about that special tea party. Remember they have the tea party that he mentioned to us when he was here? And they're asking us to pray specifically about that, and that they're able to reach into the day and have a great part. He said, P.S. you're welcome to come to the party. So any of you that want to go to the tea party, you're welcome to come. Okay, then I have a note here from Thelma. Thelma says, church family, I want to let you know how much I appreciated the service, message, choir, and young people's music, and remarks that were made in my honor on Sunday for my 100th birthday celebration. The fellowship, delicious meal, cards, decorations, and cake following the church service was very special. Thank you so much for all you do for me. I love each and every one of you. Love Thelma. Okay? So that's from Miss Thelma. All right. The Carroll County Commissioners has asked that we put on the back table for you a special adventure time in America type thing that you can have your kids, your young people do. And if you do that at the end of the year, you might win free passes to get into the Farm Museum or one of those type of things. So, anyways, the brochures are back there. Just pick one up, look it over, check it out, and it's in essence trying to encourage you to participate in Carroll County's tourism and taking part in a big picnic at the end of that. Okay. All right. So then we are going to pass around for May 24th. We have the Pensacola Christian College Proclaim Ministry team coming, and this is for refreshments afterwards. Now, I do want to warn you that your stuff will not go to waste because we'll probably just keep it around and use it again for our 2 nights later, 3 nights later, for our ice cream social, okay, which we have on Memorial Day Sunday night as a part of the service. But we'll deal with that accordingly, okay? But we're going to pass this around. This is for Thursday night, May 24th, after the service with the ensemble, and it's mostly just enjoyable snacks so you can have some time to get to know them. And with that in mind also, there is the need for people to sign up for that one night. This year we only are keeping them one night. But if you'd like to keep some of the men, it's a quartet of men this year with a male piano player and also a male leader. So we have 6 total men. If you'd like to keep some of those, please sign up for that as well. Okay, Camp Higlo registrations are on the back table, so if you were interested in sending your child to that, that's back there for you now to take a hold of and start looking at there. I feel like there's even more. You had so many things in your box that need to be placed back there. Anything else? Nothing that you can think of? We'll think of it later. John?
On Tuesday, we had our mission trip meeting. I'll have some more things to say about that probably next Sunday after I get some details worked out. But the meeting went well, and I'm going to go up sometime in the next couple of weeks or so and talk to Pastor Renner up at Church Revival Church. So I'll be back with some more information probably next week.
Okay. All right, so continue praying about the opportunity there for us to participate and help with another church that doesn't have the ability to put on a vacation Bible school, all right? And all the information for that. Anybody else? Okay, let's sing a song. Number 42. Number 42.
From the
for this opportunity we have to just meet together as the church here at Frizzellburg. We thank you for each and every individual that you've brought here today safely. We pray for those who couldn't make it. We also pray, Lord, for the many in our midst who are dealing with sickness and pain, who are also dealing with loss of loved ones. And Lord, there are so many different areas where we just desire for you to carry the burden for us. And I pray that as we meet together, you'd be able to direct our hearts to your truth and encourage our spirits as we approach each of these things. Thank you for all your blessings. In Jesus' name, amen. You may be seated. Keep your hymn book out. Turn to 577. 577. So at this time, let's take some prayer requests and prepare for our donor to take up the offering. First of all, I wanted to tell you that Betty's having a little trouble this morning with his stomach, so we need to pray for him. And that bad hurting that he gets, so we need to make sure to pray for him. And also, prayer of thanksgiving for Jeff. He wanted to have an apartment, and he's found one here in Westminster, and he's going to move pretty soon. So pray for that move and everything there, and keep that in mind. Miss Joyce is in the hospital, and so we need to pray for her. Let's see. I know there's a lot more. My brain is not bringing them to the forefront, helping. What are our prayer requests? Yes, Ms. Karen.
I have a friend that I work with. Her name is Joan Barnhart, and she has lost both her legs from diabetes.
Okay, Joan Barnhart had lost both her legs and we're trying to learn to deal with that, okay? Anybody else? Yes,
Not a prayer request, but just kind of update. Lois is, so far they're just gonna send her home, May the 9th, I believe. So last time I visited her, she's sitting up, she's talking pretty well. It's kind of like she struggles to get to words, but she's doing really good, and, she lost like 40 pounds by being there, so that's really good too, and, much more controlled diet there, so I guess just prayer that, she continues to do well, and, that they continue with her, helping her with having her diet when she's home.
all right, so Lois and healing pretty well from the stroke and all the stuff that was involved in that entire thing, and doing pretty well, recovering, still has some minor effects to pray through, but to pray that she'll still continue to eat better so that it would help her.
Yeah, because she's got the diabetes now, so.
Yep, yep. Anybody else? Yes.
I'm still on the forefront of, we've got to pray for our country
Yes,
and our
absolutely,
leaders.
absolutely. Country and leaders, yes.
We have a number of students who are finishing up programs, and this is that crunch time of year. We have several in our household who are working on master's type stuff and CPA exams and are finishing their first college year. We just about finished 1 year of college, and it's crunch time.
Very rough. All right, so pray about that. Yes, ma'am.
Pocket, please.
It's good to see you back with us. It's good to see you back with us.
Yeah, it pains very much.
Okay. You didn't fall again, did you?
No,
Came by to see you and you weren't around. I don't know what you were doing. Off gallivanting somewhere. Running down the road.
no.
What?
All right, anybody else? Okay, let's bring forward our gentleman at this time, pick up our offering. We'll ask Mike if he would take us before the throne.
Good. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the beauty of this day. Lord, we thank you for allowing us to be in your house this morning to learn from your word that you've penned down for us. Lord, we thank you for your love that you show each one of us. Lord, we just think of others that are not here and facing tough times and different situations, be it health or finances or whatever the case may be. Lord, just be with them, provide for them in their need. Lord, I pray that they look to you for that strength and guidance and direction. We give back now a portion of what you blessed us with. We give back to you to spread your word. In your precious name. Amen.
Amen. Perpetual Music, John Rose. Okay, so at this time, before we sing our next hymn, Christina's going to come and give you her report.
Just kidding, it's me.
By the way, Christina is 13 today.
What?
Today's her birthday. She's 13 years old.
Me?
Unless you ask Miss Thelma, then I'm 41, 46.
No, it is her birthday, and she's 31.
I do have a confession to make. Some of you told me explicit directions, and I'm so sorry I did not follow them. I was told I was supposed to bring a guide back. Maybe next time. No, I met some more amazing people down there. I am truly blessed that God allowed me to go to the Dominican Republic again for the third time. This time to Padre Las Casas, which is in a different area of the island. And you might want to hit the lights. I'm just going to let my pictures go because there's so many amazing things that happen in even that short amount of time. The first first few pictures are of other people taking them. Yeah, it was absolutely amazing down there. We were more in the mountainous region of the country. It's definitely 80 degrees and humid. I'm sorry that it took this long for that weather to come up here. But yeah, it was absolutely beautiful down there. The people down there are absolutely amazing. They are very friendly and receptive. In fact, they want you to come to their home all the time. And they will invite you in and they will serve what we would say an appetizer, you know, all that type of thing. No, for them, they would give you coffee and like a whole like meal. In fact, the first night that we got there, there was a little bit of miscommunication between the group of pastors we were going to work with and where we were supposed to stay. And immediately, one of the teenagers that came with us said, okay, everybody gather around and pray, which is exactly what we should do as a team. And I was extremely proud of him to immediately step up and say, do this. And God worked it all out within that 45-minute hour time period. And yes, there is a little bit of that cultural language barrier and all that, but God still worked through all that for us. And after we got settled in, the pastors were like, okay, we want to meet everybody. And so our leaders said, everybody, let's go over. It was like less than a 5-minute walk from where we're staying to the church. And they said, you know, we have just a little bit of something we want to share with you. It was fresh fruit and a whole meal after 10 o'clock at night. And I was like, I'm going to be good and all that stuff. And I showed up and I'm like, oh, okay, now I got to eat again. Because it is like to fellowship with them, and it was awesome to fellowship with them all the time. One of the families we got to spend time with actually got to be our in-laws with Mike Fleming, who I graduated with in high school not too long ago. He went down to the Dominican Republic after college and met his wife down there, and his in-laws still live there, and they invited us in a couple different times, and so it was very relaxing to spend time there. And eventually you'll see some pictures showing up of their place. They do have rice paddy fields right where they live, and all kinds of amazing things. The area for the DR is poor, but yet this particular town within the last few years actually now has paved roads. No road names or road signs, but paved roads, so they are actually becoming a little bit more developed for the DR itself. Some places have electricity and internet and all that, others don't. We did see some of the poor areas of Padres Las Casas towards the end of the week when we did what we called home invasion. And I do have a couple of pictures of that towards the end of where we went into the homes, gave food, and just spent time with the people. In one of the homes I went into, the lady was trying to give us eggs. She's like, here, take our eggs. And we're like, no, you need them. It's okay. But yeah, the people were just, it was much harder for me to leave and come back this time around. The people were just a huge blessing. We had a crowd of little girls that followed us all the time. And one of them, her name is Slory Bell, actually has such a sweet sense of humor, and how she, just her personality, by the end of the week reminded me of one of my students. And so thankfully one of my team members had a picture of that student so we could show her. And I said, now we're going to have to go home and tell that student of mine, I found your Dominican sister. And when I showed the picture to my student's mom, she's like, yeah, they do kind of look alike. So it was just amazing who all you got to see and connect with in such a short amount of time down there. I got to meet more amazing people and be blessed to get to know them. And I'm very thankful that God allowed me to have that blessing to go down, share His word, share His love with the people through different events that we did. We went to the schools, stayed a long time connecting with the kids, doing programs for them. By the end of the week, we did what's called a festival, where we did more of an extended program with the kids and then with the adults. And I saw some things that I had not seen before during these festival times and the speaking and all that. And it was a good time for me to even grow in my faith and to see the Lord work in a different way than I was expecting to see. And I did bring back some things with me, which I'll leave the table up here for you to take a look at, some of their most amazing things. The church ladies fed us, and they fed us well, 3 meals a day. Even when we left to go back to San Domingo, they gave us a snack of amazing food to travel with for the 3-hour drive back in the middle of the night. And they also gave us a gift of coffee. That is something that they enjoy very much, and they said, we wish we could give you the best thing in our country, which is us. And we're like, yes, we'd love to take you all back with us. But they said, instead we're going to give you coffee. And their coffee is amazing. So yes, I had to put that up there for the coffee drinkers. So I enjoy that. And this time we did get to spend some time in the Capitol and just to totally relax, which is what we did on Sunday. We went shopping in their market, which was enclosed, sort of like our outlets, but not totally. And it was a different setup. And then yes, we got to go swimming and all that. It is beautiful down there, and I wish I could take you guys down there with me so you can meet my now Dominican family or bring them up here. But yes, for you Southerners, they have more hospitality, and you would definitely want to go down there, I assure you. Not just for vacation, just to hang out with amazing people and amazing kids. And I do have a little amiga. There's a couple of pictures of me with her. So if nothing else, I need to go back down just for my little amiga. So, but thank you so much for allowing me to go and be a representative of Frizzellburg Bible Church, along with Freedom Christian Schools in Freedom Valley. And Lord willing, I'm hoping to go back. I don't know when, but we'll see. But, I do appreciate the support that you gave me and allowing me to be an extension while I'm down in the DR. And we'll just let the pictures go.
You might have any questions for?
Yeah, I do. Christina, is that where you took all the little animals that we gave you?
Oh, yes. We took down with us 17 checked suitcases, 3 of them being team members of various things, 14 of them being filled with toys, basketball stuff. By the way, basketball and baseball, there are 2 major sports down there. So we took stuff like that down there, supplies. We left 14 of them down there, filled with shoes and all kinds of stuff. So they went to various schools, to various missionaries. We worked with 3 different sets of pastors / missionaries, one of them being a rapper, Christian rapper, and I do have a CD up here. So we were very much grateful to bless them with all that stuff. So, yes.
What was the population of that little town?
Oh, I know Mike told me because he lived there for a while, but I can't remember. It's grown in the last few years. It's sort of like Westminster setup, where they also have Finksburg and Sykesville and Eldersburg surrounding it. So it's kind of that setup where it's definitely a growing area. And it's a 3-hour drive from any bus from the airport or from the capital. So much further than Mama. Yes.
And what is an amiga?
Amiga? Amiga or amigo is friend. Amiga being my little girlfriend and amigo being a guy.
Wish you didn't play poker.
Which, no. But I have been talking to some of them. So, yes.
What was the reception that you received after school?
Oh, these were public schools that we went in, by the way, and there were tons of kids. Their cultural is set up because it's so hot that they have a morning session, they go home for lunch, and then they have an afternoon session. So there are different groups there. But I know even here in America, if you have a special group coming, you're excited to get out of class. But even more so, these kids were really excited, and we were able to share the gospel with them, to break up and literally pray over them, and all, just a very warm reception. And for a public school, it's more than you would expect for here, but it's a very warm reception for us. Any other questions?
All right, thank you, Christina. Glad you were able to go. Glad you stayed safe.
It's one of the safest countries, by the way.
All right, so make sure you take advantage of looking at that afterwards. If the coffee's gone, you know, don't fret too much.
I might have to fight you for it.
All right, so then we're gonna sing a hymn in a moment. Before we do, I wanna now make an announcement. Tonight, at the end of our time, we are gonna have a prayer service over our next two missionaries that are going out. Over Caitlin and Grace, that will be leaving here pretty soon, before we can have another Sunday evening service, because we don't have Sunday evening service on Mother's Day. This is the last Sunday evening service before they leave, so we will be doing that tonight as a part of our Bible study. So maybe the last 15 minutes, like we have been doing, we'll meet in here and pray with them, lay hands on them, and pray over them again. So plan on being here with us. It's very exciting to send out our young people to have these impactful times where they are coming face to face with a need and thinking outside of themselves and enjoying God touching in their heart as a result of serving others. So that's tonight, okay? As a part of our Bible study, make sure you come out and do that with us, okay? All right, let's sing number 311. Number 311.
Okay.
Let's stand together as we sing. Have you ever had someone repeat what you say. You know, like a little mockingbird, and they try to say exactly what you say with the same inflections that you say it. Ariana, have you ever had anybody do that? Make you so mad when I do that. Why does it make you mad?
Because it makes you feel stupid.
Oh, I make you feel stupid by just repeating what you say?
No, because you say it like.
I said it the same way you said it.
You do that with me.
I don't know what's strong about it. No, mocking. What is mocking? Mocking is to make an effort to poke fun, right? It's, in essence, what we would call teasing, and sometimes it can have a teaching effect. Sometimes it can be meant to just play, and sometimes it can be meant to be harmful. It can be meant to really poke someone and hurt their feelings. In fact, mocking is one of the greatest ways in our modern day for a young person to participate in bullying. You know, a lot of times they might even try to pass it off as, I was just playing, I was just teasing. And it's very easy to go into that realm of being too rough with it and hurting other folks. Today we're going to look at, in our play, the continuation of our play, the fact that Jesus was mocked. And as I look at this, I want to show you 5 different groups. I want to tell you before I start that there's a part of me that is a hint, a little bit nervous, trepidatious about one of the points I'm going to make today. Because I don't want to do something wrong or blasphemous or incorrect. But in putting it in this context, there's something that I noticed that I thought we should at least talk about without you taking it too far. You'll see what I mean when I get there. But in this section, we're going to look at verses 27 through 49. You find this word mocked multiple times, almost for each individual that's included, okay? Or each group that's included. And I want to look at that, and then I want to talk to you about, you know, how do we react when we're mocked? How did Jesus react? Okay? And then I also want to talk to you about how do we mock Christ? How do we do this sometimes? And what should we do to prevent it? To make sure that we're not abusing his name and abusing who he is and those type of things, okay? So look with me at verse 27. Some interesting questions that I don't know that I'm going to be able to answer for you, but phrases that I caught on to in studying through it this way that really stuck out to me. But in verse 27 it says, Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the common hall and gathered unto him the whole band of soldiers. It's very interesting to me. It's not something I'm preaching a message about or anything. But it's very interesting to me that each of the Gospels that record this part of the story tell us that the whole band was present. Why did they call in the whole band? Why was it not enough for them to mock him with the couple of people that were there? You know what I mean? The soldiers that were on guard in the governor's hall. Why is it that they take him into a separate room and call for everybody in that centurion setup in order to come in and be a part of the mocking? It just doesn't, you know what I mean? I can't answer that, but it's interesting to me. Why is the whole band? And God emphasizes that by making sure that it tells us each time. In here and in Mark and in Luke, the whole band was present. Okay? And they stripped him and put on him a scarlet robe. Okay? So the whole band comes in and they mock him. By the way, isn't it true in bullying that the more people the bully has with them, the rougher they are because they feel invincible? You get what I'm saying? And again, I don't know the reasoning for calling the whole band in. I can't tell you whether that's a tradition. You know, before they send somebody to crucify him, maybe they do this all the time. I don't know. I have no idea what the historical setting of that particular thing is. But they bring him in, And the first thing they do is they strip him of his clothes. Now here's some things that come out to me that are very interesting. As I look at the next part, okay, it says, and put on him a scarlet robe. When Pilate asked him, people say you're the king of the Jews, who are you? He says, thou sayest. When he's in with Pilate's men, they strip him of his clothes and they put on him the garment that says he's the king. Do you notice that? It's not him. He's not running around bragging about who he is. And I mean, I'm not saying that he didn't teach people the right things and tell them that he was God's son and those type of things. But I'm trying to have you think about, he's not running around saying, I'm the King of Kings and someday every man's going to bow to me. He's not doing that. Okay? They take his clothes off, they strip him of the robe, and they put on him one of their own that they had for him, the King of the Jews. Okay? Look at the next verse. And when they had platted a crown of thorns, they put it upon his head, and a reed in his right hand, and they bowed the knee before him, and mocked him, saying, Hail, King of the Jews. In essence, they finished the kingly look by giving him a crown of thorns, and by putting in his hand something that looks like what they would use as a scepter. Okay? So they're mocking. Now, it goes to the extent, and again, this is something interesting to me, that they bow their knee to him as if they were worshiping the true king. They bow their knee to him and say, Hail, King of the Jews. Now, if you think with me, okay, about what we know about kings and kingships and that kind of stuff, it's not usual for people to bow before people that aren't the king, even in mocking. You know, if they do, it's a feint. It's not a real, you know what I mean? But the Bible clearly says that they bowed the knee before him. Okay? How many times does the Bible tell us that every knee will bow before Christ? So I can't help but thinking about these men are mocking Jesus, but at some point they're going to do the exact same thing, and they're going to look in the eyes of the man they were mocking at that moment, and they're either going to be permitted into heaven because they trusted in him, or be condemned to hell because they didn't recognize who he was. Okay? That's pretty interesting to me. But I want you to see that they're mocking him. He hasn't claimed for himself that he's the King of the Jews. He hasn't claimed that. They're the ones calling him that. They're the ones that are putting the robe on him. They're the ones that are giving him the crown. They're the ones that are giving him the scepter. Okay? In verse 30, and they spit upon him and took the reed and smote him on the head. And after they had mocked him, there's your words, after they had mocked him, they took the robe off from him and put his own raiment on him and led him away to crucify him. Now, elsewhere we find that the Bible tells us that they plucked his beard, that in the spitting on him, they would blindfold him and ask him to tell him who did it, that they would whack him with that reed and tell us who did it, since you're king and you're God and you know all this, tell us who did it, you must know. You know, they were doing all these things, mocking him the entire time. Okay? I just want to point out to you that I think there are a lot of governmental, I don't want to get on one side or the other, but governmental officials in our world today that I think very much fit this. They feint bowing the knee to God. They act like he is a real king, but all they give him are robes that they've chosen for him, a crown that hurts him, and a scepter that is useless. And then they end up acting like they're doing what they're supposed to do. But in truth, that only mocks him. It only mocks him. So our first act of this play is to include this idea of people in the governmental setting been given permission by the leadership, by the people, by everyone to do these things. And what are they doing? They're making a mockery of what they should be. They're playing one part but not doing it. Look at verse 32 and following. Continuing on with the soldiers that mocked him. And as they came out, they found a man of Simon, or of Cyrene, Simon by name. Him they compelled to bear his cross. Just want to tell you that I know that we have a character listed here, and we're not using him in the play other than a side individual. Elsewhere in the scripture, there are some things printed about him, but I don't think that he's within the plot of what we're doing. It's just a statement of fact that they, in essence, they have mocked and beat on him so badly that he cannot carry the cross himself. It's the only thing that I think you should take from that. That the mocking, the beating, the way that they have treated him has been so strong that he has to have someone else carry the cross for him. Okay? So in verse 33, and when they were come unto a place called Golgotha, that is to say a place of the skull, the normal place of doing crucifixion, they gave him vinegar to drink, mingled with gall, and when he had tasted thereof, he would not drink. So they put it in his mouth, he realized what it is, he spits it out, he doesn't want it. Okay? He doesn't want any of this type of stuff. He doesn't want anything that negates the pain, that interferes with his ability to make this decision willingly and completely of himself. It's pretty interesting what he's done here. We can do that for another message another time, okay? But he refuses to take the things that would help him with what he's going through. Refuses to take them. All right? And they crucified him and parted his garments, casting lots, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophet. They parted my garments among them, and upon my vesture did they cast lots. By the way, this is very interesting to me. Okay? So, they put robes on him to make him the king. They take that robe off, and the Bible clearly said, we just read, before he goes out, they put back onto him his own clothes. Okay? Now he's bleeding all over these clothes. And I'm not saying you can't get blood out and that kind of thing. But what in the world would people want it so much? I mean, how many of you would say, ooh, ooh, somebody that they really think is worth nothing? They just mocked him for hours? How many of you think that they would say, ooh, let me have his garment? It'll be important later. What do they get? This doesn't make any sense to me. Who in the world would want it? Why would you care? Now you could say maybe he was wearing a white robe or something. Maybe, I don't know. And they, that's what they always picture him, right? But again, the Bible doesn't come right out and tell us exactly what he was wearing. But listen, folks. Seriously, I want to wear what the condemned man wore, that he bled all over. I don't understand that. I don't understand the soldiers at all. But it's a continued form of mocking. I don't know if you see that. That in the midst of he's giving up and sacrificing his life for them, and what are they sitting down and doing? Nothing but rolling dice and playing a game to decide who gets his useless garments. You see that? To me, again, this very much fits where a lot of people in our country are. The King of Kings is truly here before him, and all they do is mock him as the king, but never give him kingship. And in the process, they take things that he gives to them, they act like it's worth value, and they cast lots for it, they roll dice for it. But in the end, it is to them useless. And it's all a part of their play that he was important when he wasn't. Not to them. Look at the next verse. Verse 36. And sitting down, this is very interesting to me. They watched him there. Okay, why is it that the Bible, I told you I'm asking a lot of questions that I don't have all the answers for. Why is it that the Bible indicates here that they are not just doing their normal guard duty, but they're kind of keeping an eye on him, you know what I mean, seeing what he's saying. And by the way, we have proof of that in John, where the centurion says, surely this must be the Son of God. Look, what I've been watching and what I've been seeing, this is a real deal. Okay? why is it that they've done all of this mocking and everything, and yet they sit afar off, or they sit off to the side and watch him? Again, I can't help but make the comparison to where I think our world is. There are so many people who play Christianity, who act like they really love God, but all they really do is do the things that make it appear like He's their king, but it's only a mock. And they value nothing of His, but they try to make it look like they value His things. And then they sit off on the side and actually just watch to see whether there's anything real there. To me, that's where a lot of our world and their claim of Christianity is. I'm not saying it's where a lot of Christians are. Genuine Christians, I think, make mistakes, they have struggles, they have problems, but they don't want to be fake. They don't want to play this mocking game of appearing like He's their king, but not. Of appearing like they value Him, but they don't. And of sitting off to the side and just watching. Okay, so I know I'm giving you the conclusion as I'm going through the individual group. I hope I'm not confusing you with this. But it appears to me that that's the first group that mocked. Okay? Look at verse 39. Read verse 37, or next part, sorry. Verse 30. And set up over his head his accusation written. This is Jesus, the King of the Jews. Now, that was the mock, the final mock of Him, that this is what He's accused of. It's not what we see Him as, but it's what He was accused of. Okay? And I've often thought the next verse seemed out of place. But if you put it into the play context, it is not. Because the next verse says, Then were there two thieves crucified with Him, one on the right hand and another on the left. Now, here's where the curiosity comes into me. And again, I ask another question. Is it mentioned that there are two thieves because it says here, and they put over His head His accusation. He was crucified for accusation, being the King of the Jews. And they were crucified on both sides of Him, people who were crucified for being thieves. It just makes me wonder if that's actually telling you that the sign above the other two guys was thief. The sign above him, King of the Jews. Again, I can't prove that. But as I look at this and the way that it says it, His accusation was written above Him, that makes sense to me in a Roman government, that the accusation would be nailed to the cross so that all could see this is why He's dying. Then it also makes sense why He would include the two thieves as just throw-ins. Hey, here's two more people that we're not going to really talk about yet. Throw them in there. They were there like Simon of Cyrene. Okay? They were on the cross. On both sides of Him. And their accusation was thief. Okay? Part of this is the understanding and accusation then comes down to further mocking. Because Jesus, throughout this entire trial, has never once claimed to be the King of the Jews. Did you notice that? He never once did anything wearing of clothes, holding of garments, having a ring. They supplied every bit of the information that provided them the accusation. Again, I hate to say it, but I think that's where a lot of our mocking world is. They accuse God of failure and inability, and they mock Him for it. And the end result is that they actually have set Him up in their own mind and in their own way and in their own world, and then said He's the one that failed. When they didn't even see God for who He was, or allow Him to be God for who He was in this entire thing. Okay? So point number one, soldiers mocked Him. Now the rest of these are shorter, just so you know. They go a little shorter after this. So let's look at those that passed by Him in verse 39. And they that passed by reviled Him, wagging their heads, and saying, Thou hast destroyed it, Thou that destroyest the temple, buildest it up in 3 days? Save thyself, if thou be the Son of God. Come down from the cross. Okay? So in essence, their discussion is one of revilement, which again is another form of strong mocking. It's an attitude of hatred towards them, but it's mocking him in such a way that shows that hatred. Okay? And here they are telling him, well, you know, they're reviling him, they're wagging their heads, they're just so angry at what he is up there on the cross. And what they're yelling at him is, you said you could destroy our temple in 3 days and go back again. Why don't you just go ahead and save yourself since you're the Son of God? They are actually showing you how much they knew of what he said. Okay? First of all, that he was the Son of God. And second of all, that he had the ability to come down from the cross, but he was choosing not to. Third of all, they're pointing out to you that he had said that he could take down the temple and build it up in 3 days, which is actually the theme of the crucifixion. That he would give up this temple and raise it in 3 days. That was the theme. In their mocking, they're actually including a ton of truth. That's what my point is. Do you understand that sometimes the people that mock my God aren't the people that are within the group or within the government who have the wrong mentality? They're the people who walk by and who mock God with tons of truth, but refuse to believe. They're able to say, He is capable if He's God. But I don't believe He is. But in that mocking, they tell you what God is capable of. Resurrecting and restoring the temple. Coming down from the cross and defeating death. They were capable of telling both. I want to tell you something, folks. There are a lot of people in our world who mock our God, and what they do is they walk past our Christian circles and they throw up darts, and the darts that they throw up have tons of truth mixed into them. And the entire purpose is, by the devil, to convince you that maybe what you're believing in isn't quite the truth. But they include a lot of truth, and it causes doubt. Maybe God won't do this. Maybe God can't do that. And the end result is that people walk away from faith that they should never have given up. Why? Because they struggle with the people that are angry with God and reviling Him. You know, I have a relative that will say to me when I try to talk to him about salvation, how can God, who is so loving, be the God that He is, that you say that He is, and allow for this horrible stuff that's happening in our world? Like people being taken and sold into slavery in a bad trade around the world. How can it? Okay, by the way, loaded with truth that if he believed it would be a different answer. So I think that's the second type of mocker. The first one is the one who gets some ideas, and those ideas are actually truth-based ideas, but he doesn't believe them at all. The second one is a person who shoots up those ideas just to drag you down and make you say he's not really what he says he is. Look at the third group. Verse 41. I hope you follow me. Okay, this isn't exactly the same pattern that we've done with the play yet, but there are 5 parts to this plot of mocked. Verse 41 says, likewise also the chief priests mocking him. Notice how God keeps saying that, mocking him, with the scribes and elders said, He saved others. Himself He cannot save. If He be the King of Israel, let Him now come down from the cross, and we will believe Him. By the way, even if He came down from the cross, they wouldn't believe Him. You know that, right? But you notice that these chief priests and scribes and elders, what are they accusing him of? He saved others. Oh my word. You're seriously, in your mocking, you're going to be screaming that you had the capability to make the lame to walk, the blind to see, the leper to be healed. You saved others. But if you're really who you say you are, come down from the cross and save yourself. Why is it that we, the religious people, get so hard-hearted that what we see is, God, you were capable of doing mighty things over here, but in the situation that I want to see, or what I think you ought to do, you're not showing yourself to be God. You see, what I'm trying to tell you is that I think the chief priests and elders, from the number of them that end up saved by Acts 15, they are struggling with this. They are kicking against the pricks, as the Bible says, to Saul, who becomes Apostle Paul. Okay? And the reason why is because they are dealing with, how in the world is he saving this many people? How is he helping the man who is so sick that his 4 friends have to help him through the roof? And the guy gets up and walks out, free of all of it. And of course, what Jesus tells him is, you're free because your sins are forgiven. And they get mad. How dare you say that? He says, oh, well, what's easier? Sins are forgiven or get up and walk? Okay, get up and walk then. That's what he did. Folks, they have been witnessing this firsthand. And so what are they mocking him? It's like the church today. They stand back and they say, ha, we've seen you do a lot of good things, God. But if you don't do what we think you ought to do in this situation, maybe you're not God. I see a lot of mocking of that type. But maybe what we need to do is say, you are God. And you're on the throne. And I'm going to trust you. Not, I've seen you save people, but you can't do this. You can't save yourself. If you be the king of Israel. Again, did he claim that title at all? Did he claim himself to be the king of Israel? No. He was from the kingly line. He will be made the king, but he did not claim that he was there to take the throne of Jerusalem at that moment and make himself king. Let him now come down from the cross and we will believe him. Look at these next words. I could preach a long set of sermons on this next verse. You look at these next verse. He trusted in God. Okay, so the first verse that they say is he was able to save others. The second accusation they have against him, that they're accusing him of while he's on the cross, he trusted in God. Listen, I don't know that I want to be hung on a cross and crucified, but if that's what people are going to mock me with, I think that's pretty good. Don't you? He trusted in God, but here's the thing that makes me so upset. This is the church of his day. They are mocking him. The first section, pretty much the government. The second section, the group of people who know enough about our faith to shoot darts at us, but who have no real stake in what's going on. The third section, that's a group of people who are from within the church, who take it upon themselves to say, I see who God is, and I've seen what he can do, but if he doesn't do this, I'm not letting him have God's shit. Okay? And then they go on and say he trusted in God. Let him deliver him now, if he will have him, for he said, I am the Son of God. Do you understand that they are actually telling you everything they needed to have the faith they should have? Everything they needed. That he's the Son of God, that he came to save, that he had a relationship with God, he trusted him. And he trusted God to deliver and to take care of each and every situation. And yet, that's the mockery of the church. Folks, I want to tell you, the church should not be mocking anyone for this, let alone God himself. Yet, if we're honest with ourselves, a lot of times we get upset with someone who is trying to trust God. We get annoyed with someone who is trying to help on behalf of God. You know, we struggle with these things, don't we? And we end up mocking God by going after the wrong individual. Okay? Now, let's look at the next one. And this is the one, oh, by the way, verse 44. The thieves also, which were crucified with him, cast the same in his teeth. Very interesting phrase, too. I don't want to look at that for a long time because I'm out of time. And with this entire play, I keep going out of time, a little longer than I'm supposed to go. Not that you complain, but you know what I'm saying. So, the same in the teeth. That's an interesting statement. Hank, what does your Bible say there?
Even the robbers who were crucified with him reviled him with the same thing.
Okay? Why is it that they use the phrase here, cast in the teeth? And the only thing I can figure is, not just that they were reviling him with it, but they're actually trying to slap him in the face with the same thing. They're trying to hit him in the mouth with the same thing. You know what I mean? It's like the picture of trying to throw a punch into him and really get him. And they're dying on crosses next to him. And they're taking up this thing and they're trying to use it. And they're trying to say it. And they're trying to do it. Okay? I don't know. Cast the same in his teeth. Since it's thieves plural, I don't think that the his can refer to the idea of individual. That's why I think it must be Jesus. Very interesting phrase. Something to study, but not for this particular one. Now here's the one that I'm concerned about. The very next one. I do not want to blaspheme God with this. And so if I'm out of line, you can talk to me about it and tell me, and I mean it, okay? But I cannot get past the idea that in the midst of God talking about all these people mocking, that God inserts the side of the story. Well, let's read it. Now from the 6th hour, there was darkness over all the land unto the 9th hour. And about the 9th hour, Jesus cried with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. That is to say, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Friend, I recognize that some people could say, if we weren't doing this with a play mentality and themes and sections, okay, some people could easily say, oh, Pastor, it's just the timing. You know, they were mocking him up until the time that it got dark and everything changed. It's just the timing. But if you look at the next verse, it comes back and talks about some of them that stood there, when they heard that, said, this man called for Elias, and straightway one of them ran and took a sponge and filled it with vinegar and put it on a reed and gave him to drink. The rest said, let be. Let us see whether Elias will come to save him. You see, I'm trying to tell you that the section of mocking is not done. So it makes me question something. Again, I'm not trying to tell you I know this for sure. But I'm wondering, as I study this, it hits me like a ton of bricks. Maybe this is what bothered Jesus so bad with that cup. I told you that he didn't want to deal with our sin. He wanted to save us, but he didn't want to have the sin and all the consequences. But maybe the idea of God turning his back on his holy, righteous, perfect Son was just as much mocking to the heart of Jesus as the very people who were saying those terrible words that weren't true. And I wonder, That's not what broke his heart. My God. My God. I mean, I knew you had to, but why have you forsaken me? Why have you made a mockery of me being your son? Now listen, I believe that Jesus understood the whole picture, and this is why it scares me to deal with this way. I believe that Jesus understood that his Father was not totally rejecting him. He had to turn his back for the sin, and I believe that he understood that he would rise again and that all this would happen the way God said. Okay, so I'm not denying any of that in this thought. But it does make me wonder if in the process of looking at everything being about mocking, if it wasn't a strike to the heart of Jesus, that God, because of taking our sin, had to turn his back on Jesus. And it was like the very same mocking. But friends, let me tell you something. Okay? That means that we've looked at, if that's true, that means that we've looked at government, soldiers, people in charge who act like they love God, but they don't value him at all, act like they're going to make him king, act like the things he's touched are worthwhile, act like none of it's real. Okay? Then there's the people who walk by who have enough knowledge of our faith but shoot darts at us trying to get us to lose our faith. Okay? Then there's the religious people who see what he can do but refuse to take what he... And any of these, by the way, we can participate in mocking God in this way. But I think one of the ultimate and most hurtful ways that we can mock God is when we turn our back on him. When he's trying to do something and we say, I don't want it here. No. I think we can participate in playing that God's important to us. I think we can participate in shooting darts at causing people's faith to fall apart. And I think we can participate in being religious and seeing so much from God and not really taking it to heart. Friends, I think one of the greatest ways that we mock God in the modern church today is we act like we're doing things for God, but all we're doing is turning our back on it. Saying no. No. Well, let's look at the last one here and see how it ends. Some of them that stood there, when they heard that, said, This man calleth for Elias. And straightway one of them ran and took a sponge and filled it with vinegar and put it on a reed and gave him to drink. Maybe he thought he was having visions. I don't know. You know, but whatever it is, it's causing him, the person under the cross, to say he must need something. He's in pain. And so he goes and takes it to him, okay? The rest said, let be, or leave him alone. Let us see whether Elias will come to save him. This is a group of people who don't even trust directly in God. You mean to tell me that anybody who understood who Elias, Elijah, Elisha, who these men are, that they would not look to themselves and say that if God wanted to save him, he could save himself, but instead they're saying, if he's calling for Elias, let's see whether Elias shows up. What are they actually telling him? Friend, these are people who don't even know God directly at all. Who take the things that you say and the things that we say and the things that we do and they twist them totally to mean something else. And then say, now let's see whether they can pull that off. Friend, there's a lot of mocking in our world. And maybe I haven't done enough justice to this many verses in this short time. And I have a lot of questions that you've heard me raise and think about. But I want you to understand, God will not be mocked. You see, there is one thing that God will never do to you and to me. He will never turn his back on me. Jesus took every ounce of that. God will never mock us in our effort to serve Him. He will always be true. Always be faithful. I am so amazed at how this fits with our Sunday school lesson every week. I don't care what we're doing, somehow the verse in 1 Samuel fits this. But friend, I just want to tell you, trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not on thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct your path. Remember that Psalms 1 tells us that we're not to be out there in the way and sitting with people who mock our God and who scorn Him and who... No. We're supposed to be trees planted by the rivers of water that bringeth forth His fruit in His season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever He doeth shall prosper. Don't turn your back on God. He won't turn His back on you. Instead, get in and get buried deep and get fed by Him, so that your faith is not some fake thing that mocks Him. The first group. Not something that has enough knowledge but shoots darts at it. The second group. And not something that's very religious and sees what He's capable of, but wants Him to do it our way and so doesn't truly believe. The third group. And definitely not having the back turned to Him. Instead, bury those roots deeply and drink of the living water. And never mock Him again. Strong and true and capable of serving our Lord. Every head bowed, every eye closed, no one looking around for just a moment. If you're sitting here today and you say, Pastor, if I died today, I'm not sure I'd go to heaven. I'm not 100% sure that I will. Friend, I tell you, God's not going to be mocked. He wants to save you. He's not slack concerning His promises. His desire is to reach out into your heart and to touch you, and He's tugging at it right now. No matter what you've acted like or done or played, if you're one of the people that have tried to do this idea of faking Christianity for all your life, just give it to Him. Because He loves you. And He wants to help you. He won't mock you for coming. He'll be proud of you. Christians, let's just do what God wants us to do here. Resolve to never turn our back on God. Because it was a painful mock. And turn to number 187. If you have something you need to lay at the altar, please come and do it. Standing as we sing, number 187.
Every tongue
Heavenly Father, we thank you that you continually allow us to see that you are the true God, that you are truth, that you never change, you are faithfully always there, loving us purely and truly, having been making a way for us to live that way. Pray, Lord, that we are truly confessing you as the God of all in our lives and not turning away, not mocking, not throwing back in your teeth the very words of life that you have given to us, but receiving them. We ask these things in Jesus' name.
Amen.